Welcome everybody. We are at the Network of Researchers for Citizen Science. This is our fifth meeting and the fourth training session, where we are joined today by our very sweet and communicative guest, Maya Fedeli from Italy. A little bit about Maya. So Maya has been a researcher like many of us here, and she has a PhD in immunology. And she's now working as Scientific Communication Officer at the University Policy Office at the University of Italy
Vita Salute San Raffaele.
in Milan.
Yes.
She supports researchers for citizen science and European project communication and dissemination. And she's also contributed to the Time4CS European project to encourage institutional changes to promote citizen science. She's a co-chair of the EXA working group, storytelling and other arts. So without further ado, I think we can start with our today's meeting training. So over to you, Maya.
Okay, so thank you. In the meanwhile, I share my screen. Let me just tell you that I'm going to share the slide with you. So there's a lot written on the slides, so don't worry about taking notes about everything, because you will have the slides afterwards. And second, I don't think I will see the chat. And so if someone writes something on the chat, please feel free to stop me. And also feel free to stop me by and if something is not clear. However, I know that we have quite a good amount of time in the end for discussion, so it's up to you. If you have something really urgent, feel free to stop me. And so I'll try to be very practical in this presentation and to show you some aspects that when I was switching from being a researcher and then I discovered the world of citizen science, I try to share with you what I found really fascinating. Let me just say that it was very nice for me to discover that there is a lot of science behind citizen science, and science is my comfort zone, and I guess this is the same also for you. So we will try to share these with you. So when is citizen science relevant for different steps of the research process? So let's start with something about, since we are in Europe and this is a network of European researcher, but if someone is outside Europe, I guess that the principles that I'm going to explain are still valid. So why is the European Union supporting citizen science? So first of all, because it contributes to excellence, because it enlarges the scope of research and innovation, the quality, the quantity of the data collected. It is able to increase the robustness of the outcomes. It enables the innovative and creative approaches, and it leverages the collective intelligence. And moreover, citizen science contributes to the effectiveness, aligning the outcomes with the need and values of expectation of society. It reduces the time to market of innovative products and services, and it triggers behavioral changes. And last but not least, it increases the trust of society in science, because it increases the openness, transparency, and co-ownership of society. And this may lead to more inclusive outcomes. So this really encourages mutual learning between science and society. Citizen science can be embedded into the concept of responsible research and innovation that engages the public and all the accountable stakeholders in order to achieve research and innovation outcomes that must be ethically acceptable, sustainable, and socially desirable. And the rationale here is that science and technology really have the potential to change the future for the best, but all the stakeholders, citizens, industries must be involved in this process. So let me just put the pointer. So here you see the 6 pillars of responsible research and innovation, and classically citizen science is put at the interface between open science and public engagement. But we will see that citizen science really has the ability to incorporate all the dimensions of responsible research and innovation. So first, obviously, the public engagement, because we engage citizens and other stakeholders to work together with researchers. And the open science, because it's a principle in citizen science, we must make science accessible and without restrictions. Then we have research integrity and ethics, because we can connect research with the 10 principles of citizen science that you can read on the on the EXA website in multiple languages. Really, if you're dealing with citizen science, please go and read them, because really, if you just follow them, you're you have done more than half of the work. And in science education, we boost education through training and participation in science. This may be also fostering future STEM careers, and also increase the scientific literacy. About gender equality, it's very important in when we are promoting our citizen science project to include sex and gender aspects. And let me say, now we're going after gender equality, where we're not taking into account only gender, but also other aspects of inclusion that must be really carefully evaluated in creating your project. And last, the governance, because we foster the connection with the decision maker, and maybe we can promote policies that now can be evidence-based. So the benefits of citizen science are always a little bit displayed as something that is beneficial for the society. But for today, we're gonna focus on the benefits for science and for researchers. So researchers should be made aware that citizen science is not only a public engagement initiative, but is also, and moreover, a research methodology like any other, with limitations and biases that should be considered and controlled, as you do with every research methodology that you use in the lab, in the field, in the museum, wherever you work. Citizen science is an underexploited but valid research method, and it involves people as an integral part of the scientific process, not only in outreach activities or other initiatives that connect science to the society. So this is a beautiful article wrote by the former vice president of the ERC Scientific Council, Professor Evelyn Crone, and she underlined that every research method has advantages and disadvantages. When we are in a research lab, it's very beautiful for us because everything is controlled, all the conditions are set, and so this allow us to draw causal conclusions that what we are used to. But in the real world, we can reach out to communities that possibly would never come to the lab. So here the strength lies in the combination of methods, where the disadvantages of one method can be compensated by advantages of another. And we are moving towards projects that are not only citizen science projects, but more wide projects in which citizen science, as I said, is just one of the methods used. So you have like one work package, one task that is done by citizen science, and then you put all together, and then you draw your conclusions in the end. This is quite complicated, but don't worry. So this is just to show you that the scientific process must be understood as something that is necessary both for science and citizen science. As I said, there's a lot of science behind citizen science. So these are the classical steps of science: design, development, delivery, data ingestion, post-processing, and publication and use. These elements in gray are inherent in all science projects. So, like, for example, the sampling scale, the precision level that you need, the analytical approach, and then the publication. But then for citizen science, you can add some elements that are specific for citizen science, like the training for the participants, how the quality control must be must address the fact that who is collecting data maybe are citizens and not trained researchers. The goal must be made explicit, whatever. So this is just to say that we have a lot in common between classical science and citizen science, but citizen science requires some obviously specific elements to be embedded. Not all research projects are suited to the collaborative, decentralized approach that characterizes citizen science. For example, we should exclude projects that have a narrowly defined objective or require a high level of expertise or specialized equipment or advanced techniques that, in this case, it's better for you to use the traditional research methods. You're not obliged to exploit citizen science. So you should use it and exploit it when it can add value to your project. So as I said, and I just to repeat this because I think it's a core point, citizen science is just like any scientific approach. So, and as classical scientific approaches, it is at its best when it is specific and the question addressed is precise. So for citizen science data, to be fit for purpose, we need to clarify what are the purposes. And in this case, the clarity of the question is very important because we are involving citizens. And moreover, you do citizen science if for you the engagement is important and is able to add a value, as I was saying. You have the needed resources to do that because, as you know, in all science projects, you don't do anything without the, the resources. You take advantage of a large-scale sampling, so it's better for you to involve citizens. You are able to propose a protocol that is simple and is doable by the participants, maybe with a training, but still, this must be they can do it, and then you are able to give to the participants a good reason to participate to your project. So what are the key criteria for determining the applicability of citizen science methodologies in different research phases? Let's start from the research objectives. You should determine whether the research goals really align with the capabilities and interests of potential citizen science. And then you assess whether the citizen science can contribute to achieve these objectives. So the data complexity, you should evaluate the complexity of the data that you collect or you analyze with people, because maybe you're analyzing data with people and they're not making them collecting the data. And then they should be suitable for the participation by volunteers with varying levels of expertise. And then you have to consider the technology and the resources, the availability of them, like the data collection tools, the communications channels, the data management systems. And in the end, you should consider community engagement by assessing the level of the community interest and involvement in the research topic, because, you know, no one will be involved in something that they do not care at all. This is impossible unless you are a very good communicator and you're really able to give them a reason. Otherwise, you should consider this. And then you have to determine whether there is a community of volunteers that are really willing to participate in your project. This is something that you should consider in advance before starting the project. So what type of data can be collected in citizen science project? This is something that is really interesting for researchers when I do training to our PhD students, because really they don't have the idea. They only think about maybe answering some questions on a survey or doing something like that. But we can go beyond that, and you can involve citizens in collecting records or observation with information about place and time, so the presence or absence of something. Then you can make them collect images, video, or sound recordings. They can measure something in a quantitative way, so this is different from the first point. They can collect physical samples. Physical samples can be water, soil, but also in some projects, vaginal swabs. So really, make it free your mind to think about what they can collect. And then you can ask the participants to measure something with sensors, for example, radiation, temperature, or noise. Obviously, the sensors must be usable by people and maybe not so expensive. This is something that you should consider. Or if it's expensive, you should provide it. And records from social media. And also you can ask the citizens to classify data that you collected in the lab, because, for example, some tasks are difficult to automate and go beyond the possibility of the artificial intelligence, at least for now. For example, pattern recognition, and these are easy for humans to do. And so in this way, you collect the data and then you ask the participants to catalog or analyze the data for you. And this really can speed up your research a lot. One beautiful example is a project called Star Catchers. Obviously, I'm focused on life sciences, but I guess there are projects in other fields doing the same thing. So we also should consider why some scientists, and also this was one of your questions, it was like, how can I make citizen science acceptable in research groups? Because maybe not all of you are aware of that. Some people sent some questions in advance. So I try to answer to these questions during my presentation. And so how we can make citizen science acceptable in research group, and we should now address why some scientists are skeptical towards citizen science. There are some reasons. The first reasons is that the ivory tower paradigm still stands. Some scientists are still convinced that all knowledge is restricted to research institutions and universities, but you can clearly see that this is reductive and exclusive, and it fails to recognize that we have a lot of knowledge that is available beyond academia. And however, citizen science really requires researchers to have a certain degree of humbleness, because they have to step back and start to listen and learn from other people. And this is not so you should not give this for granted. This is difficult for researchers. So scientists usually are willing to participate in outreach activities like public talks or interviews or initiatives in schools, but they are less open to directly engage lay people in their own research activities, to let them put their hands in their research work. And also, this is because researchers may have negative perceptions of the public's ability to really contribute to science, because they think that they lack the required knowledge, skills, and trainings. And this is also related to the very famous deficit model that says that lay people are skeptical towards science because they don't know enough about science. So first, we should teach them, and this is quite arrogant to do. We should talk with them and not and not only teach to them, and then stop considering that they don't have any knowledge or skills. It's up to you to propose something that is really doable by citizen scientists. So third, the data collected by citizen science are considered of low accuracy and biased, limiting their usability for scientific purposes. For example, some months ago, I was talking with a doctor, and she said that the data that were collected by a citizen science project were for sure of low accuracy, and now the paper is out on Nature Microbiology. So I guess they were quite fine for for the reviewers. So this is really not true. And also there is a perceived stigma around citizen science projects, also because scientists put a higher standard on citizen science projects than they do on normal ones. And there are also some science about this. There are papers showing that citizens can gather data of quality that is comparable to the ones collected by professional researchers. So that means with a similar error rate and a similar degree of variation between observers. And so really, I think that examples about Nature Microbiology shows something. And for sure, in citizen science, you need to take into account quality control, because this is true. Citizens are not professional researchers. So you really need to take this into account when thinking about the project, or maybe co-creating the project with them. This is something that we hope you will do. So we should include in our experimental design a quality control. And in case of citizen science, the quality control is a function of the sample size. So how many participants, because obviously the more participants you have, the less error you can have if the protocol is fine. And also the task complexity. If the protocol you propose is too difficult for them, for sure, their degree of error will be higher. So these are the two parameters that you can play with. Otherwise, you can read this very beautiful article. This is all about these. And so how can researchers leverage citizen science in various stages of their research projects? This is also to answer some of the questions that you made in three particular moments. First, obviously, the data collection, because citizen science allows you to access large volumes of data. And also this data can be collected in different geographic areas and also in different time periods. This is something that maybe you cannot do with your own forces. And so the volunteers can contribute with observation, measurement, other data points, and can be otherwise challenging. So the data analysis, you can involve citizens maybe both in the creation of the project, in the data collection, in the data analysis, but maybe you can involve them only in the data analysis. It depends from the project. So really, you can crowdsource the analysis, and you can analyze vast data sets more efficiently, as I was saying before. And in this case, you also exploit the fact that the volunteers have different backgrounds and expertise, and this offers you fresh perspectives and insights that maybe did not come to your mind when you're talking by yourself. So this is really something that, or in a smaller research team. So opening your mind can also be helpful for you. And last, in the data interpretation, because if you engage citizens in the interpretation and you have a broader understanding and dissemination of the research findings, and moreover, you foster science literacy and public engagement with research outcomes. So also, how can we contribute to robustness, inclusivity, and impact of the research outcomes? For robustness, by engaging different diverse group of volunteers, you can validate and cross-check your data, and then you improve the reliability and robustness of your research findings. For the inclusivity, obviously, you involve volunteers from diverse backgrounds, and you include non-scientists which might not typically participate in research activities. And this fosters a broader engagement with science, and you promote the equity in access to scientific knowledge and participation, maybe in people that did not have the chance to study as you did as a researcher. And last, for the impact, obviously, you broaden the dissemination and the utilization of the research outcomes. And these outcomes are already aligned with the need of the society. And so really, you have an impact that can be social, environmental, or a policy impact, and you empower the communities to address maybe also local challenges, and you contribute to the decision-making process. So what's in it for you? Let's just sum up. Some of these things were already said, but it is just to give you a very outlined and short version of what I said. So first, one of the advantages is the community engagement, because you involve local community in scientific research, you foster ownership, engagement, and strengthen the researcher community relationship, and you promote the public understanding of science. So for the scale, obviously, you can enlarge the participant numbers, and this enables a vast data collection, and the scalability enhances a research scope and depth. So you have rapid data collection over broad areas and timeframes, and the data quality, because you can, as I showed you, you can have mechanisms that ensure the data accuracy and reliability. The training, the validation checks, the statistical methods do enhance the data quality, and also you address concerns about data quality in this way. The cost effectiveness, obviously, you're utilizing volunteers to reduce data collection and analysis cost. And this can be particularly beneficial for projects with limited funding or resources. However, it must be said that there is some debate. Really, obviously, this sparks a debate how we should compensate volunteers. Maybe you should pay for them. This is a lot of debate. Maybe we can keep this for, if you want, for the discussion part. I like the projects in which people really volunteer for doing that, because you are able to give them a good reason to participate. But this is just must be recognized that there is a debate on this, if volunteers must be paid as researchers. And also, you have diverse perspective, because the citizen science come from different backgrounds and have different expertise. And this enriches the research and leads to a comprehensive insights. And last, the innovation, because citizen science contribute innovative ideas and approaches, and it leads to new methodologies, tools, and discoveries. So I decided to add to my presentation some specific answer to the questions that I received because I think that they were of broad interest. So first, some do's and don'ts for incorporating citizen science in EU-funded projects. Some do's: you have to define the roles and the responsibilities. You foster the collaboration between researchers and citizens. You ensure the data quality and security, and you promote transparency and inclusivity. And as I said, inclusivity nowadays must go beyond gender issues. The don'ts: do not neglect ethical considerations. Maybe your project is fine and you don't have it, but have a reflection on that. Do not underestimate the time and resources that are needed, and do not exclude citizens from the decision-making process. Include them also in the part in which you are planning the project. So some, as I said here, do not neglect ethical considerations. So let's have some ethical considerations. There are some non-questionable points. So you have to ensure an informed consent if the data that you are collecting require that. And you have to protect the participant privacy and confidentiality. You should mitigate the risks and the conflicts of interest, and you should foster an equitable collaboration and decision-making process. These are something that also come from the 10 principles of citizen science that I already cited. So you should, to involve the citizens, you should have a transparent communication, a meaningful engagement, and mechanism for feedback and accountability. Accountability, as I said, you should take into account that you can be accountable for something in this project. This is not only something that you do in your free time. This is a research project. So as you are accountable for the normal ones, you are accountable also for the citizen science one. In a research project using citizen science, you should address the participant demographics, their cultural backgrounds, and their potential conflicts, and then modulate the project on these. And as a researcher, please reflect on your own biases and assumptions. Consider the impact of sociocultural backgrounds on participant interactions and ensure an equitable returns for participants' contribution. As I said, I'm not meaning that you have to pay for them, but at least, and we will come back this to another in another slide, there should be their contribution must be recognized. So this is just first to the equitable returns means that you have to return the information to the public, and you can do that in accessible summaries, maybe your research that you write in a language that is accessible and understandable by the citizens. You can have some visualization, some interactive tools, host some events or workshops that are dedicated for the people, and then you give back the results of the projects in which for which you receive the citizens' help. Obviously, publish open access your reports and articles, and then collaborate with local media and maybe educational institutions to disseminate the findings and also to disseminate how you did that. Because knowing that you can do that with research, we can do something with researcher, can foster the citizens to propose something. And if we have time later, I will tell you a beautiful example of this. So please do not disappear after exploiting the citizen scientists. I use here exploit on purpose, because really if you disappear, you have only exploited them. And then make it clear from the beginning of the project when and where they will find the results. A website, a social media, they should write you an email, you will publish a journal, whatever you do, but please make it clear from the beginning, because it could be frustrating not to know the end of the story you participated in. And so some strategies for increasing the participation and awareness from the beginning. Also, this is a very beautiful guide. I suggest you to read it if you're interested in that for the communication part. From the beginning, you can hitch a ride on existing networks, obviously use social media and maybe gamification. And then after the project started, you also have to ensure that they continue to participate, maybe with social events against social media, some storytelling about what is happening during the project, gamification again, and maybe choose some ambassadors. And I think this is my last slide, or maybe I have just another one. So the evaluations, still answering your questions, the evaluation of citizen self-involvement in citizen science projects. As for feedback mechanisms, recognition of contributions, training, recognition of contribution means that, for example, I cited already this project stall catchers. Here, the stall catchers are among the author of this paper. This is something that is really nice, and I guess is the best way to recognize the involvement of the citizen scientists. And also you can offer training, capacity building programs, and foster a sense of community and ownership. And then to sustain their involvement, the communication must be ongoing, non-stop. You should address feedback and provide meaningful tasks and ensure the participants feel valued and appreciated. This is just to, this is a symbol that symbolizes the reward, something that I always say. And with this, I will conclude connecting to the fact that everyone must be rewarded in a citizen science project. So I added this slide, we come back to this. So everybody, with citizen science, everybody is rewarded. Citizens become researchers, and researchers increase their sense of citizenship. And then I come back to the previous slide, because another issue that was asked, what are the common pitfalls? Because everything must be, something can go wrong. For example, you'd have an inadequate planning and communication. You lack the community engagement and trust. You have a bias yourself in the participant recruitment. You have an insufficient support and you give an insufficient support and training for volunteers. So in the end, they are not able to complete the task, and you overlook the ethical consideration. And as we considered that before, and then you lack to assure the measures for the data quality assurance. And so let me just go back to my final slide, because and just to repeat it. So with citizen science, really everybody is rewarded. Maybe you're just happy because you participated to a project. This is something that would be enough for a citizen science. They're happy to contribute to science because maybe they already love science. And so really citizens become researchers, and researchers increase their sense of citizenship. And this will be, I think this will foster beautiful results in the future, now that we are really delving into the world of citizen science. So I stop now for real. I stop here. I thank you. I stop the sharing of my screen so I can see you maybe. And sorry, let me just.
Thank you so much, Maya. That was a brilliant presentation, so comprehensive, so engaging. I'd like to open the floor for any questions, first from the audience, and then we can go to the chat. Anybody, just unmute yourself and ask. This is your opportunity. Yes, Hande.
Dear Maya, thank you very much for the informative presentation. It was quite useful and fruitful on my part. I would like to ask, what is the general overview of different type of scientists working in the field, in the sense that, for example, basic science researchers have different competencies, social sciences have different competencies, and I think one of the dilemmas or one of the challenges is to try to engage these scientists as well to better outperform or better value the citizen science environment. So I would like to get your thoughts on this, please. Thank you so much.
Yes, so this is something that I address every day, because maybe you don't know, I work in a university that is associated to an hospital. So basically, the vast majority of our researchers are life scientists, and life science is a field in which citizen science is not developed as much as in other naturalistic and like bird watchers, and something that you go for a stroll outside in the forest and then you observe something. This is the classical citizen science project. There are tons of them. And in life sciences, you really have small ones. So really, it's something that I feel that maybe some scientists cannot be interested, or maybe they feel that their topic is too difficult, or maybe they do not envisage anything that they can propose to citizens. And this is true, and it must be recognized. For example, in the life science field, also the ethical considerations are even more difficult, because we're dealing with patients, and maybe we want to involve patients in a project that is dealing with their own disease, that they are biased by themselves, just being patients. So the ethical considerations here are even more important. But still, I guess that if you just have a look to different projects, for example, the one that I was telling you a lot about, analyzing data that were collected by other people, and then you ask people to catalog and to analyze those data. This is something that you can do in all disciplines, notwithstanding which is the one. So we can find some broader kind of projects. And this is why also, even if you're not a naturalist, even watching naturalistic projects can be of an inspiration for you. And then you think that something, or as I said, I always come to the life science examples, but this is what I deal with every day. Physical samples. You always collect water or leaves or something like that. And then there is this beautiful project published on Nature Microbiology, and they collected vaginal swabs from women that they collected by themselves. People are willing to participate. We just should stop about thinking that we are alone in this fight. And this will open your mind. So maybe I did not answer completely to your question, but really I think that maybe even watching projects that are completely different from your field can be an inspiration. So go on in following seminars and whatever. And if you want to convince them, maybe try to show this, find maybe just the only project that is dealing with your topic, show them and show how amazing it is, and maybe some ideas will pop out. This is my advice. This is what I'm trying to do. Even if you have only really one project, this can be of help.
Thank you, Maya. We have another question from Alessandra.
Yes. So thank you, Maya.
Ciao, Ale. We know each other.
Ciao. And I know the kind of work you are doing in the institute, that is really great, because you are really educating us. And this is an aspect that it's very close to my heart, and I want really to follow in the next years. But now I want to come to my comment and my question. When you speak about citizen science, which kind of citizens are you including? And then I want to ask you a comment about patients' engagement, because it may have a very different aspect. Can you clarify a little bit? Because I don't know really if patients' engagement is easier or more difficult to include in science compared to other kind of citizen or public. So just to have your comment, because it's
okay. So I will ask to both the questions, and I think that I can answer also to the question in the chat, because it's similar about who is the typical volunteer. So first, who is the citizens that you are involving? So it depends from the project. You can create a project that can be only for children, for example, and in this way, your communication must be addressing the fact that you are communicating with children. This is something that I'm going to do in the next 2 years, and I'm really scared a lot. Even if I am a mother, I don't know if I will be able to speak with children, but still, we will try to do that. But also, the typical volunteer is male, 50, 60 years old with a degree. This is a typical citizen scientist. And maybe because he's more interested in science, engineering, and technology and stuff like that, I don't know.
I'm surprised about male, because I would imagine female more.
No, the typical citizen science since now have been
Okay.
male. The one that goes on the catalogs that we have online, Citizen Science, and choose the one to participate with, is male, middle-aged, and with a degree, and a higher income. But we should go beyond this. We should really go and involve, obviously, women, but also people that do not have a degree. You should be able to involve these people because maybe they did not have the chance to study science by themselves, and maybe they are not interested in science as a whole, but they can be interested in something that is a local problem, or something that, or as you said, a patient, their own disease. It's really important to propose to the citizens, if you are doing it by yourself and you're not co-creating this with the citizens from the beginning, to propose something that is interesting for them. Because if they're not interested in the topic, they will not follow you in the project. You must be able to focus on something that is interesting for them, and it is the concept of the reward. The reward must be the sense of being grateful participating for science, but also maybe because you're trying to solve a problem that you have. An example that I always do is about the Flint water study. The people of Flint, which is a city in the US, don't remember the state, they were worried that the river was polluted, and they started to collect water samples and to analyze by themselves. But in the end, this was something that is, they were right. The river was really polluted, but the analysis had to be repeated because the quality of the analysis was not the one required by authorities. So if there was a collaboration, if it would have been a collaboration from the beginning between citizens and researchers, they would have saved the useless analysis, and the researcher would have listened to the fact that the citizens were saying that the river was polluted. This isn't just an example. This is a local problem. They are involved in doing this, but there are also projects about, I don't know, really different topics that starting from the citizens. Citizens can be really interested in doing that. But we should take care about not having only the male middle-aged degree with a degree person, because otherwise this is reductive and you reduce the difference of perspectives that you can get from your project. The project that I was talking about, the vaginal phobes, obviously was only about women, but that's not an issue. You can focus on a very specific group because this is something that your project requires. This is good. It depends from the project, really. Is it something more social, more regarding a city? Maybe you should include all the population. Otherwise, you can no problem in concentrating on just one category of people if that's what the project requires. Regarding patient is really something that we should carefully think about, because there are some challenges. Regarding patient, you can have a higher coordination effort required because we're dealing with people with a disease, and maybe they can have a low physical resilience due to the disease that they have. And typically, the relationship between patient and their professional is not equal. There is a sort of so let's say the doctor is higher in the relationship than the patient, and you should find the doctor that is available to put himself or herself in an equal relationship between the patient scientists. Let's call it patient scientists. And moreover, the patient scientists should not be biased by the fact that he's affected from the disease that it's the object of the study, and this is difficult. And also, you have to foster a feeling of cohesion if it's not possible to have face-to-face meetings, because maybe the patients are spread in a country or whatever. This can be difficult. Or, for example, you should also consider maybe a potential mutual risk of infections. These are really stuff that if you are involving chronically ill people, you should consider. However, really, there are also some benefits, obviously. because if you include the patients, you have a systematic use of the patient's expertise, and they have they're dealing with every day, and they're coping with the disease every day. And so in this way, you can have a more holistic and robust epistemic process, which is really already in line with the needs of the target group of your research. And you empower them because they are not more, the patients are not object of the research, they are subject of the research. And this is something that is really important. And also you increase the participant knowledge on their own disease and on science as a whole. And so really, this I think can be really beneficial. And I know that you are, Alessandra, you are with me on this. But it's not that easy to make it clear to all research, life scientists, and also doctors that this fact that they should stay on the same level with patients and listen to them and align maybe your research, maybe you can, or they can tell you that your research is useless. This is something that a scientist does not want to hear. So this is something, but if you do that in advance, you will save maybe years of research.
You also need a lot of trust between them.
For sure.
Because otherwise patients does not come to you.
Yes. However, as you said, the community of patients can be a good community that you just arrive, you propose something through the patient association, and you don't have to pick them everywhere. So maybe it will be easier to involve them.
For some reason can be easier to collect, but then to engage really. This needs a lot of effort, as I said, trust. You also empower them, but you have to do it in the right way. And it's something.
But I guess that some trust, they already have it because, it's hard to say, but you are their only chance. So they trust you because you are their only chance to have a better life. So this is something that puts you in a power position, and maybe it will be easier also to convince them to help you. So I'm quite full of hope for our projects. So did I answer that? Oh, sorry, a lot of something in the chat. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, everybody's appreciating your
Okay, thank you. Yes, you will get a copy definitely of the presentation. So also because I know I told you like tons of things, so definitely you will have the chance to read it. And
we do have a question from Montserrat. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask it yourself, or?
Yes, thank you. So thanks a lot, Maya, for your presentation. Really insightful. And my question was, you were talking about the participation of citizen scientists in the collection of data, but what about involving them in co-creation and in the design of the research itself? Like fine-tuning the problem, thinking about what kind of data do you really need to collect to solve or understand the problem. So how do you see that? And maybe you have examples or advice on how to approach that.
Yeah, so you're right. This is something that I lack to focus on in my presentation, but it is an important part. And but sometimes, because I'm used to talk with researchers that do not know anything about citizen science, this is quite a different audience. So maybe you're already engaged with citizen science, but this is important, and I guess this is really of pivotal importance, because as I was trying to say before, for example, you can also address the thematic of the research. Maybe there are some issues that people feel that are important for them, and you are not taking them into account. An example that, sorry again for coming back to the life science examples, we're always giving this example about cancer patients, and they were asked what they wanted on research, from the research. And obviously researchers think that they want a cure for cancer, but in the end, the answer was, we want painkillers. Because maybe they were already dealing with cancer, and they already accepted the fact that it's difficult to find a cure, but they wanted precise painkillers that were designed for that kind of cancer, that kind of pain that the cancer is giving. So we should start listening to people in all research fields, because also the thematic of the research should be discussed with people, because sometimes we have our own ideas, what we think is cool, maybe it's fancy nowadays to publish, but in the end, you're not addressing the people needs, their expectations from research. And I think also this is important also why the European Commission is giving us some clusters that were decided with people, and this is important. So I truly agree with you. And how to involve them. This is difficult because from the beginning, maybe you don't know how the project will be. You don't know what the precise audience or group of participants will be. But my advice is maybe just start with a low number, a focus group, a small group of people that you know that are interested in that. And then maybe you enlarge this in different rounds. And then you see if the project is going well. And then when you're ready, you start the real project. So my advice is that what we're doing now is this. We start with a very small group of people, even 5 people can be enough. Then you enlarge to 100, and then you go to the thousands if you're able to. That's what we're doing. This is my advice. Maybe it does not work in every project, but this is what we're doing now. So it's another message. Did I answer? I hope so. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thanks so much.
Maya, I have a question, if I may.
Yeah.
And this is coming from personal experience and something that we also, because Marie Curie Alumni Association is a volunteer-run association. So many a times, and I think you have touched upon these points quite a few times, but just to kind of reiterate the importance of it, that because it's volunteering, and of course it starts off with a lot of passion and excitement and commitment, it does tend to die down with time. Sometimes it's, like people realize it's taking too much time, too much resources, they don't have that, or they lose engagement, they lose interest. What are some practical ways, but small steps, doable steps for people who lead these volunteering groups, including citizens from diverse countries, cultures? How can we commit to that constant engagement to keep them interested and committed?
So let me just advise you to read on this, one of the publications that I put on the presentation, the one with the slides with the balloons. That was one of the last one. This is almost all on these, and it's always tackling communication, like initial communication and continued communication, continued engagement, because as you said, it's quite easy to involve them, but it's difficult to retain people. Yeah. So you need to give them something that is, for example, in some projects that are more gamified, they do some challenges, hackathons, whatever. Also on C-Starters for the Citizen Science Month, they wanted to do 1 million acts of citizen science. So you can do some kind of initiatives. Maybe you organize an event with the people and you meet. It's a beautiful way to also reignite their passion for the project. But this, as you said, this is a continuous work. You should not expect them to stay just because they liked you once. Yeah. This is not enough. You have to have social media interaction, and maybe involve the normal media if you're doing something local. Maybe you can engage also the local media, local journals, just to reignite again. But it's really, as you said, it's difficult. And all that, I thought really just suggest that publication, because it's really beautiful. It has some practical examples, what happened, what to do. And obviously every project is different, but these are the most general advice that I can give.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else from the audience have any last questions, comments, suggestions? Anything at all? No? Clea, do you want to pitch in?
Yeah, thank you very much, Maya, for this discussion and for everyone that answered questions also. It's a really relevant material, and I think it's the first time I actually get to hear a little bit a lecture about this topic, so it's exciting. It's fun. I wanted to mention also a bit more about the network, what we intend to do, the next network meetings, and also the PDF file that we have with your questions. So Maya, the idea behind on the network of researchers, we have some more trainings coming up, and Pooja, she has the link and she'll be able to share. The next one will be on ethics in June, and we'll have someone from the Centrum for Social Innovation in Austria join us to give us a short training. So your questions are really, I think, key also, and help the presenters and understand and make us understand a bit better what you actually want to know more about the topic of training. This network of researchers was created by MCAA and us at UPCT. And if you want to join, we had put our emails in the chat, but maybe we need to do that again. Just send us an email and you're more welcome to join. For the list of questions, we will share them with a network of educators and trainers that we have in parallel to this. So they will be hopefully answered one way or the other. And also this recording will be put on the MCAA YouTube channel and on the XI YouTube channel. So we're kind of trying to develop a training guide out of these training sessions or webinars. So I just wanted to mention that, and thanks again, Maya, also for the talk.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
Right, we're absolutely on dot, on time. So thank you so much for keeping on time, everybody, and for such an engaging and interesting session. We'll probably have Maya again for maybe some other future talks, and the questions have really helped a lot for us as well to understand what's behind the scenes of engagement in citizen science and how to increase that kind of pool of knowledge for everybody. So thanks so much. And if you have any suggestions, you know, Claire and I's email addresses, I've put them in the chat as well. If you're not a part of our network but would like to be, just shoot us an email and we'll keep you in loop for future meetings as well. So with that, we conclude today's session. Thank you so much, Maya, Claire, and everybody in the audience for joining us. As usual, it was awesome to see you guys. So thank you. And until next time, have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
You too.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.